first Eclipse Theory Games for 2024, where we bring you the latest in gaming news, indie reviews, and everything else under the sun. My name is Kendall, and I'm here with my co-host.
Tony, aka Brawl Mooney.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I ain't mad at you. You can't combine Dave Chappelle and Smash and go wrong in my eyes. I ain't mad. I ain't mad at all. But that's how we kicking off the new year, folks. Of course, this is technically the last episode that we're recording in 2023. We're doing it a couple days before the new year starts and everything. But we're gonna go ahead and put this out on January 1st and like let it kind of set the tone for the year. Hopefully we can kind of keep that going for episodes in the future, because I love the fact that that's our game of the year episode. Like, this is going to be the episode where we have our big discussion, look back at, everything 2023 had to offer, the best, the worst. And we both compiled lists. I know we got like at least the top five, right? I mean,
It's the Moonies.
it is exactly what it is. The Moonies. It's a condensed
First
version of the
video.
Moonies.
Yeah, the first video Moonies.
Yeah. We might actually have to go back and do like a full legit Moonies, like a retrospective with all the categories and everything. But we're gonna hone in on our game of the year discussion today. We might tap in a couple other things, but so you got a list of five, right? Right, Tony?
Yeah, I got a list of five.
Okay, so
Well, technically it's like 3.5, but I'll explain.
Interesting. That's interesting. Okay, because I have a list of 10, and I'm trying to whittle it down to my top five. And man, this year was crazy. Like this is the last time I'm gonna say it, hopefully, but this year was nuts. There's just so much to go through. And it was really hard to determine my five best that I just played, because I know that can be, if we look at the year overall, we can have a retrospective on that. But as far as what we actually got a chance to get our hands on, was it tough for you to kind of whittle down your list, or was it clear cut?
Nah, it was pretty clear cut.
Okay.
I had no issues. Mainly because I just had such a hard time playing stuff over the course of the year. Like everything outside of like one thing, everything that is on my list is like outside two things, everything on my list is fairly recent. And that's because I had the time like within the last week to dive into stuff.
Right. That makes sense.
The time that I did take, it had an effect on me.
Yeah, I feel that. I 100% feel that. I have actually, I do have two games on my top five that I started within like the last month or so, finally got around to. So we're gonna have some interesting discussions, some things that we haven't gotten a chance to talk about on the show. I'm actually gonna go ahead and let you start with that being said, because I know you have a lot that you've just now started to get into. So we'll go from five and kind of work our way down. So what's your number five?
All right, so in that case, my number five is actually a game that's been out for a while, but I played it for the first time this year, which to me counts as a game of the year thing. Like we're not so official that we're only doing calendar year 2023.
That's fair.
It's an indie game called Moonlighter. I think I mentioned it. Okay, I'm pretty sure we talked about it at some point.
Yeah.
Just an incredible roguelite Zelda style game with one of the most interesting premises that I've ever encountered, because it's
Absolutely.
like you're running a fucking shop, but on the side you be out here fighting monsters, going through dungeons and shit. It's just like you're legitimately like running a shop. It's almost like you're the shop owner in Zelda. And this is what you're up to when Link is finished buying shit at your place and goes off and does what he does. It's like, nah, I got to get more shit for you. So when you leave, I got to head out.
Facts.
And get this going. But just an incredible experience. Pretty substantial game too and I didn't even get to touch the DLC because I think there's a little bit of DLC with it.
Yeah, I haven't played that either.
But yeah, that's number five for me.
Okay, I'm not mad at that. Moonlighter is, like you said, just one of the most interesting, like unique ass premises. And I mean, the way that you put it, like, oh yeah, you run a shop and you go out there and adventure on the side. That's really the vibes of it. Like if that throws you off, trust me, you're doing a lot of like adventuring and wandering through caves and whatnot. Like it's a good half of the experience.
Yeah, it's definitely heavy on the adventure stuff, but the shop running is part of the experience.
Man, and it's got like such a weird appeal to it with the loop that you go into a shop running, watching the customers come in and like, trying to stop people from like stealing from you and shit like that.
Right.
It's an amazing game. I feel that. Okay. All right, well, I will keep with the theme actually as far as indie games go, because my number five is the first game that I just got a chance to jump into. It's been around for a little while, but it came out this year, and that would be Sea of Stars. I finally got a chance to dive into that one. If you're not familiar with Sea of Stars, I've talked about it a little bit on the show before. It is basically a Chrono Trigger homage. By an indie studio, they made another game called The Messenger, which was more like a Ninja Gaiden old school, homage. And this very clearly inspired by Chrono Trigger, but they nailed it. Like the feel of it, the combat, the way the story is paced, it takes itself like exactly seriously enough to where you're like intrigued about what's about to happen, but still kind of like enjoying the ride. It's an amazing little indie RPG, and it's worth being on this list for sure, in my opinion. So that's got to be my number five on my list.
Nah, that's a easy pick as far as RPGs this year. I don't think I haven't played Final Fantasy 16, but just from what I've seen of it, I would still have to say that Sea of Stars is probably top RPG period this year.
And so that's an interesting statement, and we're going to delve into that a little bit as we get deeper on my list. It's the top RPG of its ilk, I would say. Final Fantasy 16, I won't spoil, where that's placed on this whole thing, because after we go through our top five, I want to talk about some of the things that didn't make it, even if it's like we hadn't played it, but some of the reasons why they didn't make it, but I'm not mad at that. But all right, what's your number four?
Number four, just something that I've recently been able to play is Mortal Kombat 1.
Nice.
I was worried coming off of 11. I was worried about the speed of the gameplay, whether or not they'd be able to find the right balance. Because I feel like 9 was almost perfect. 10, they kind of jacked up a little bit, like, and in
Mm,
11, there was some inroads towards fixing it, but one feels right. It feels like the perfect balance of like speed and timing. Because I've been
okay.
able, like, not when 9 came out, I was maining Sub Zero, and I was like, nice. And then 10 came and 11 came, and they changed them up as far as like the timing of his attacks,
Yeah.
the style of his attacks. And I'm sitting there trying to like figure out where like I fit there, and I couldn't get it.
Hmm.
But I picked one up, and you know, 10, 15 minutes just kind of feeling them out. I was already getting combos and like, okay, this is gonna be like my, you because you kind of go into things like once you get somebody down, you kind of go into things like almost like an offensive play caller. Like, yo,
Hmm.
these are my 15 plays. This is what I'm gonna
Yeah.
run, and then I got some counters.
Yeah, this is my bag.
Oh, yeah, I'm sitting there like, okay, I got a solid 5 combo bag here where I can make something shake until I, get going.
Right.
Um, I haven't, I had so much fun just like in the practice mode and then kind of jumping into like the arcade. I ain't touched the story yet.
Damn, nice. I
Like
mean,
I started it, but I ain't really, touch it and get into it.
yeah.
Um,
And for a Mortal Kombat, that's like one of the highlights, especially these more modern
right.
ones.
Because
Yeah.
the way the shit opens is like you get to like the opening cutscene and shit like as soon as the game basically starts. And I
Mm.
already know it's about to be fire because it's just the way the whole setup is. Like the color palette is so different from Mortal
Yeah.
Kombat's palette. Like everything in the past is like dark and
Man, I had the
like
same conversation.
snowy.
I had
It's
this,
just
bro. Not to interrupt you, but I had
no,
the same exact because I haven't like properly played it yet, but I saw that they had a 2 hour trial, so I tried it out and I actually still got like an hour left because I didn't want to. I do want to touch on the story a little bit. I was just playing the first like hour with my cousin or whatever, but watching that opening cutscene and just like being like for me, Mortal Kombat, like early on, didn't really hit for me because it felt too like it was leaning into the gory, dark, edgy. It felt a little edgelordy. I'm not gonna lie. This is with all due respect to Mortal Kombat. I know how great it is now, but that's why I slept on it for so long.
no. Mortal
And
Kombat 3 is like peak edgelord shit.
you know what I
It's
mean?
yeah,
Yeah, with all these apologies, I know what I'm talking about. But Mortal Kombat 10 actually was the one that got me more so in because I loved the kind of reboot feel of it and like it's for some reason this darker feel, it worked for me. This game appeals to me directly, like the vibe of it, the colors, the way that they set up I mean, when we say that they're making a new universe verse here, this is a new universe,
Literally.
and that's very
Literally.
clear. Yeah, it's very clear from the opening of the game, and that's just dope. I agree with you. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, so that's my number four.
Yeah.
That's I mean, even the time I spent with Street Fighter, and we talked about it, I don't know, maybe an episode or two ago about how much I love Street Fighter 6.
Hmm.
Getting to play it. This is like for me, but that I mean, there's also a level of bias there because I was always the Mortal Kombat kid, not the Street Fighter kid. And
Okay.
I've played absent of the 600 like spin-offs of each game, I've played every major Street Fighter.
I feel that. I feel that. I think that I don't think I can make that claim because I'm like such an outsider on the fighting game side of things. Like I'll dip my toe into them every now and then. And I have been really interested in trying both Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat and Tekken. Like thankfully I got a chance to try demos and trials and everything. But I'm glad we got some representation on the list because my list is sorely lacking. My number four is one that again we talked about at length, and especially during the Game Awards episode, how this one kind of got its flowers a little bit in its respective category. But Armored Core 6 is my number four. This game, man, this the loop of that game is incredible. I feel like we won't talk about it as much because something about it feels almost arcadey. Like,
Yeah,
the flow of it, yeah, like and I mean even the aesthetic of it, like the way that people like the story is campy in the most Metal Gear Solid way, but some about it just gives it like a pick up and play arcadey. Like you can run through that campaign in a few hours. The idea is to keep going back and replaying it. Like you're finished it by your third playthrough, but man, the map customization in that shit is really wild. It's really fun, just unlocking
the,
new weapons.
the Johnny Bravo shit still has me like,
That's still a highlight.
that's so fucking insane.
And honestly, there's more that I can pull from. Like I'm gonna have to see if I can find any more. But that game has so much that you can do. Just the different types of weapons, like the unique ways that you can get around. Getting into the weeds of it really surprised me because I wasn't sure how technical I was going to be. That's kind of what put me off of old Arkham cores. Not that they were like the most involved thing in the world, but this one has just enough, and it kind of helps you understand everything just enough. And I had such a fucking blast with Armored Core, man.
Yeah, that was another game that I managed to get for Christmas, and I texted you about it. I'm like,
Mhm.
is because it took a minute for it to like really latch on. Like that opening kind of took me like trying to figure out how to control it and
Yeah,
exactly how to move and all that stuff.
absolutely.
And just kind of try to get into that rhythm because every game's got that like, especially action games, it's got that rhythm that like once it clicks, you straight. But
Right,
until then, it feels like you flopping around in the water and you can't swim.
100%.
And you kind of got to fight through that. But I did have a moment like right in the last like 30 or so minutes that I was playing it where I was like, okay, I get it. We're gonna be here now.
Yeah, yeah, man. And if there's anything that Souls like about this game, it's that like okay, let me kind of like, it's not quite bashing your head against the wall, it's trying to get through the wall, but it's more like, trying to climb up a staircase that's constantly moving down. Like you got to get your timing right. You got to get your
Right.
steps right. And once you get it, you'll be like, okay, I can get up this easily now. But at first, it's going to feel like the shit is just pulling you back down all the time. Um, Overcoming that, like this game has Armored Core maybe has like two or maybe three bosses that I would say like really push that limit of like, yo, this is about to be a tough one. Like this is gonna be a challenge. But other than that, it's just like a fun action game. It's just about toning your reflexes and shit like that. And I think it's such a great game. So definitely my number four with a bullet. I'm glad I got it on my list.
All right, so I'm three now. All right,
So,
number three, Spider-Man 2.
interesting.
Just yeah, no, this is gonna get really interesting.
It is.
Um, that game was so incredible. Like Spider-Man 2 is one of those games that kind of harkens back to like as much as I hate when people say this is like when video games were fun.
Yeah.
Because I hate when people say it, but I know what they mean by it.
When video games focused on being fun. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Because like, and I guess the main example that we get out of that is like SSX Tricky. Like every
Hmm.
time you see that game come up, that's the comment that comes with it, and it kind of fits because like there's no focus to SSX
Hmm.
Tricky. It's just go do cool shit.
Yeah. Get
Just go
tricky.
down a hill and go do cool shit. And like all of those games from that era were kind of that. And I think
Hmm.
Spider-Man 2 kind of found some of that while still being really narratively heavy. And then you get into the narrative and it's just it's fucking insane. I mean, there's outside of some comics, man, it's and the Spider-Verse movies, it's hard to find a better Spider-Man story than what they've done with the last three games, and especially two.
Yeah.
Um,
I have to
just
agree.
like the type of shit that and I wrote about it was like the relationship between Peter and Harry. And we don't see dudes interact like that
Yeah.
in gaming. Like dudes,
Absolutely.
they just don't. You know,
Yeah.
like we was like legitimate like love and affection for each other. And
Right.
you know, it wasn't more niggas was going, ew, that's weird. Nah, man. Like it's two dudes as brothers.
Right.
They
Like it's
grow up with each other. Like it's one of the, your mama feed me, that's my mom. That's my mama too. Your daddy feed me,
facts.
that's my daddy too. That's the
Facts.
type of relationship they had. And it was just cool to see that kind of play out in like totality
Yeah.
in that game. Cause that was a front to back, like that's my best friend. I might kind of hate this nigga right now. Nah, that's my homie though.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, exactly.
like
That's what
I mean, I look at in the 25 years we've been friends, we've never actually beefed
not really,
ever.
nah. Nah, like niggas
But
argue, but
yeah,
yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, and
yeah.
like that's as bad as it get, but it get there.
Yeah,
But that
exactly.
shit's realistic, and I think that's kind of the outside of the whole superhero of it all. When you get Venom into it, and some of the other cameos and stuff, we're not gonna, we still a
Yeah,
couple months out.
right.
Um, what really kind of holds Spider-Man together is his interpersonal relationships, and him and Mary Jane is an easy one.
Mm-hmm.
It's a boy girl relationship. Like that's easy to get into the weeds on that. Then you've got like the mentor mentee relationship between him and Miles, where it's like Miles feels ignored, but he doesn't take it personally because he knows, his friends there. But then you've got Peter and Harry, and that's kind of the main relationship of the game. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's the one that matters in the story.
Yeah,
And like I said, you just don't see that when it's just two dudes who are friends and their relationship is what actually drives the narrative forward. And then you just couple
that's
that with the fact that it's just fucking fun to swing around. Like it's just
man.
fun.
Yes.
They gave us web wings, and I thought when they revealed that I wasn't going to want to use it, but it's so good and it's
Man.
necessary to like continue the swing. Like it actually works so well with the swinging that you're
Yeah.
damn near comboing in and out of it. And it's like once you hit that rhythm, man, it's like your eyes get bigger, they glaze over, and then like nothing exists on either side or behind you. It's
Facts.
fucking incredible.
One 100% on everything that you just said. I feel like as far as the relationships go, that's the one thing like that they could have fumbled the bag on. But where when you talk about Miles and like how he struggled with like his dynamic with Peter, he didn't let that become like you've changed, like and this big ass dramatic blow up and like
Yeah.
like because that's what people do when they looking for reasons to like okay you validated some shit that I already knew about you or whatever. Like it's not what you do with your brother. You show that patience and that care and love and all that stuff and like let things play out the way that they need to. And this game really did capture that.
Yeah.
You said that brilliantly, so I ain't going to, speak on that too much. But I'll go ahead and jump into my number three, which is actually Spider-Man 2. So I'm just gonna pivot right into my speech about it. And that's why it's interesting. Like I was thinking that I honestly expected it to be your number two, and I thought I was going to pivot into your Spider-Man 2 entry, but vice versa happened. But yeah, man, like that game really just took everything about the first one and like grew it up in such an incredible way. The web wings thing reminds me of what you said early on when we first saw some of the building in Tears of the Kingdom. Because I remember one of the first things that we clipped out of one of our shows was
Yeah.
it was concerned about, whether we were going to need to glide or explore on foot because of all the vehicles and stuff that they were showing off. We had no context for it yet. It was just
None.
like links on the car now. Hey, there you go, coming soon.
Yeah.
But the same
Totally
way
wrong
that
on that.
I mean, but listen, you had a valid concern. Like it was more so like oh, what's going to happen here? Like I don't know if I needed that. But when you get it, you see how it just empowers everything else that you do. The same thing can be said for the web wings, like that's the same type of vibe. Like it empowers web swinging. Some people are mad at them because they feel like they don't need to web swing now. Because you can like legit, there's a trophy for flying from one end of the map to the other. So you can like
A word.
legitimately, yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah. I had
get
to
back in there, pick that up.
I had to platinum it. Like I could not put the game down until I platinumed it. And I legit wanted to go back and replay it after that, which for me, man, I'm a narrative guy. Like I play video games and getting to the end of the story is kind of like the treat for me, low key. So having a game where the gameplay loop is just that fun and I want to go in there, do everything in the game, and then pick it back up and do it all again speaks to how great this game is. So
It's hard to make you want to replay like a narrative heavy game.
100%.
It's really hard.
And this game is just got so much to explore and do. They have the loop down pat. It's crazy how well they have this shit refined. So Spider-Man 2, both of our number threes. It got awarded from us. All right. That
Yeah,
bronze medal matters here at
yeah,
Eclipse Day.
yeah. It does. It does. All right,
Absolutely.
number two, and this is where things go pear shaped.
Yes. Okay.
Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom.
Wow. Number two.
Number two. Number
Interesting.
two.
Interesting.
We
Okay.
have since May have spoken so ridiculously highly of this game that I'm not entirely sure that I have any more words for it. But
Yeah.
the most important thing is that this was the first Zelda game I've played since Ocarina of Time that made me reconsider Ocarina of Time as my GOAT. That game was that good
Yeah.
that I got done and I was like, I don't know if Ocarina of Time can stay on that top spot anymore. I I mean, like to this day I'm still wrestling with it, and I find myself leaning towards Tears of the Kingdom more and more every time I think about it, because Ocarina of Time changed like how we view 3D games,
Hmm.
and that's a big leap. But then you have to look back, and there's 20 something years of 3D games since.
Right. Right.
The open world game is still relatively new. We're talking about like '01, '02, and or at least the 3D open world game.
Hmm.
And you look at what they did with Tears of the Kingdom as far as player freedom and shows. I mean, people are still like doing new shit with it. We're
Yeah.
7 months out, and they're still doing new shit with it. Even the developers are like, "Yo, we didn't think that it
Yeah.
was going to be this." And to have what is essentially a second game within an already huge game, and the creation, just the creation suite and things you can do with Ultra Hand and all that other stuff. It's fucking insanity because
It
it
is.
doesn't actually take away from what Zelda is. Somehow it enhances it. Somehow it makes the gameplay better. And on top of all that, you've got a whole underground fucking section that is atmospheric as all hell.
Yep.
You know, there's a different style of gameplay down there because you can't just be reckless
Yeah.
and just try to fuck shit up. Like you
You
got to be
gotta.
cautious, damn near play it stealthily.
Yep. And you gotta plan your traversal even. Like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
and if you run out of bright bloom seeds, I had a period of time where I ran out of bright bloom seeds, and I was fumbling around in the dark just looking for the faintest hint
Damn.
of like something,
That's
and
actually wild.
I couldn't get out. Like but I got to a point where I was like, okay, I got more bright bloom seeds. Let me just keep going.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Okay.
like I didn't want to stop. I finally got to where I could, keep going and bring some more light in, and I didn't want to stop. I was just kept going.
Man, if
And
yeah.
that's the type of game that, like, I'm saying all of this shit. I ain't even got to this fucking story. Like,
Right.
it's an elite Zelda story. I mean, when you told me, because you were ahead of me for a while, when you told
Hmm.
me about the tears, that's the first thing I did.
Yeah.
Like, I touched down and I just went after all 12.
I'm not mad. Okay, so you got all the
Like,
story right there.
yeah, I got all story right there. in the moment. I didn't touch a
Mm-hmm.
single dungeon. I didn't do shit else. I did all 12 tiers and got all story because I'm like, I need to see where this shit goes. And honestly, it kind of enhanced the experience
Yeah.
because then it felt like, I guess in my version of the playthrough, it felt like it gave Link a purpose to like finish this shit off because he knew everything that was going on. He
Right.
knew why the shit was happening. He knew how to fix the shit.
Mm-hmm.
So when he got to the end of it and he realized what was going on and he got the Master Sword, now it's like, all right, I know what I need to do now.
Right.
Let's just go do it.
That's pretty, and that speaks to the way that they put the game together. Like I had a similar moment to that where there's a point late in the game where you have to go find something special to help boost you even more after you do all the dungeons. And I found that just exploring the map. Like I was just kind of wandering around. I saw something crazy in the sky. The thing I saw that was crazy in the sky was a whole puzzle and it led me to some crazy underground. And the thing I
Oh,
found under, you know what I mean? Yeah, like that part. And that's like something that like you canonically, before you go face off against your final challenge, they tell you to go do. And I just did it like independently and it felt like something I just found in the world. And man, that moment hit so much harder for me than I think it will for other people, where they just kind of went and talked to someone and they hinted at what they should do,
yeah,
because just organically like stumbling on that made everything feel so much more like real. And this world feels like the way Breath of the Wild hinted at some of the things that Zelda did, like that people did in this universe, this version of Zelda. Tears of the Kingdom fleshed it out, like the Zonai and everything revolving this world, like everything happening in the past, present, all that stuff. So I feel that. I ain't gonna, give my speech too much until I get to my part of the
fuck
list.
like likes.
Fuck like life is a great place to end that, actually. Absolutely. 100% I feel that. But man, very satisfying when you take the motherfuckers out.
Oh yeah,
You get rewarded with a treasure chest every time you overcome your overwhelming fear and disgust. So thank you, Nintendo. I appreciate that. Um, so my number two, also a game I just recently picked up, but legitimately haven't put down. I mean, I'm going right back in as soon as I finish this podcast. I'm not gonna lie to you. Baldur's Gate 3 is my number two. So like you said, this is one of those games, like maybe the last week I've gotten a chance to play it. And man, I'm almost done. Like that's how this game has taken over this. Like I've had the condensed version of everybody's year. You know what I mean? Everything everybody else was thinking while they was watching the Game Awards, I condensed that shit into like the last 4 days and shot it into my fucking arm. And oh my God, I'm kind of just buzzed out right now. Like this game is crazy. Oh man, like so I don't think we've talked at all about Baldur's Gate as an experience. More so just kind of like in the terms of the industry, but the amount of choice that you have in this game is crazy. Basically, if you're not too familiar, because I know a lot of our audience hasn't tried it yet, they've just been hearing about it. It is essentially a Dungeons and Dragons campaign. Like that's how Baldur's Gate games play out. Like you go in, you build your character in like the most Dungeons and Dragons way possible. Pick a class, subclass. The amount of choices and like autonomy you have over like what direction you go in is wild. I picked a druid because I wanted to talk to animals and I wanted to turn into animals. And that was pretty simple. Like I ain't had too much
Doctor
thinking.
Doolittle ass nigga.
Man, listen, that sounds awesome. I got a whole nother, I can go talk to motherfuckers. Imagine the shit that people gonna be saying that you're not gonna be able to talk here. Coming to find out there's like a million ways that you can get to talk to animals. You can get
Oh
items,
well,
you can get spells, but I can do that shit any fucking time I want to. So whatever.
you can do it naturally. So
Yeah, yeah. So, but I'm telling, man, listen, the amount of just stuff, like just the desire to go back and replay the game and make all different decisions. It hit me in a way that, like, the same way Mass Effect did. This is one of those type of experiences, like actually building out your character relationships with everybody, um, and like the way that character leveling and like specking works is just so encouraging. It's like I'm at the end of chapter or act two, and I believe there's three acts and an epilogue. So I'm not that far from the end of the game. I'm like level 8. You know what I mean? So levels paced kind of slowly, it would feel, but you unlock the way they unlock stuff and like the way you build your character out, it really does feel like you're in the middle of a campaign of Dungeons and Dragons. Like the turn-based nature, if that throws you off, that's how I had to start thinking about it. Not that it threw me off, but I enjoy thinking about it as okay, if I'm picking how far I'm going, that's me telling the dungeon master, okay, I moved to this place. You know, if I have one action, imagine yourself describing all the things you do during your turn, and you can really understand how this is a D&D campaign, like made real. I know this is not news to anybody who's familiar with the series or any games that play like this. It's not the only game that's like this, but it's such an incredible campaign. Like it's such a great story. There's so much to do in it. I could talk about it for hours, especially since I haven't gotten a chance to yet. So I'm gonna stop there. But that's my number two for sure.
You know what made me like obviously hearing about the game and kind of the nature of what we do would necessitate that I play the game.
Mm.
But what made me really want to play the game is one, I had already understood that it was basically a D&D campaign,
Right.
and that's kind of the basis of the gameplay. But one of my favorite shows ever is Community. And one of the things that Dan Harmon does really, really well is like themed episodes.
Yep.
And he had a whole D&D campaign episode, and I ended up watching it like just randomly, and I went, okay, I need to play this game now. Because like that's the episode. It's that fistful of paintballs and probably the bottle episode where they were where they were looking for the pen. Those are probably the three episodes that I watch the most.
Yeah. Those are
there's no funnier scene to me. And as much as he's a dickhead, there's no funnier scene to me than Chevy Chase being asked what he wanted to do to Neil. And he's like, like he's giving him so much shit for being fat the whole episode. He's like, how fat do you want to make him fat? And he just growls it out. And that, like I said, as much as of a dickhead as he is, he was so good in that role.
Yeah.
And in particular in that episode, it makes that episode incredible. But the way they kind of like actually played it out, as an actual campaign throughout the episode was one of those things that made it kind of click in my head, like, okay, I need to play this.
I respect the fuck out of that, actually. And I appreciate that our once per episode, like deviation from the topic was for Community. I respect that. Yeah, nah, man. I've watched a couple people do D&D playthroughs. I really like this game is gonna make me jump into that community, like, because I'm just fascinated now. Now I'm just like the new kid that's talking about, hey, did you know you roll the dice every time? Like I'm describing all the basic shit.
Just they looking at you like, yes,
yeah. Like, yeah, but it's really that good. Like it's good enough to get people into the genre who wouldn't touch this genre outside of it, and I can recommend it to most people. So, gotta put that at my number two. High praise for that game. Absolutely.
Yeah, as you can see, we have no issue with the fact that it won game of the year.
I don't know.
All right, my number one.
Interesting. This is gonna be interesting.
Valhalla.
My God, that is okay.
That DLC was so fucking good. That's game of the year material.
I'm not mad at this.
That shit, I can't remember. Like on a smaller scale, Hades did it, tying the narrative into the actual genre. But it was like after playing God of War, it felt like I don't know how to say this without the negative connotation, but it felt like a novelty. And I can't figure out another way to put it, but with Hades, it just as natural as it felt. Once I started playing God of War, like it's the roguelike genre in the context of that story in God of War and Kratos' journey is his journey.
Yeah.
Like it fits so perfectly with this idea of like banging your head against a wall and not being ready to move forward until you are. That's his whole like journey from being this angry motherfucker to being a husband and a dad and still dealing with being an angry motherfucker and trying to teach his son how not to be an angry motherfucker.
Right.
And then getting to that point where he finds some level of peace within himself while still having to fight And
Mm.
then getting to Valhalla and going, I have to like really face this shit that I've done in the past and actually actively not being able to do it in that moment, like put in the position to get past it, not being able to do it in the moment. The
Right.
narrative itself was a roguelike. And that's the
Damn.
craziest fucking thing.
Damn. That's a wow. That's actually a profound ass thought. That's
Because
facts.
if you don't die through the playthrough, you still get kicked back at least
Mm.
5 times just through the nature of the story because he's not ready to move forward.
Yeah.
It's one of the craziest
Yeah.
fucking thing. I'm like, I've never seen a roguelike gameplay, roguelike narrative, and the shit
That's
fits.
I would have never looked at it like that, but that is actually facts. That is actually facts.
And when you take the gameplay, like that's the first time God of War, the reboot series, has felt like the OG games, where it's comboing out and just like attacking shit.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're obviously doing puzzles and shit in the main gameplay loop, and
Yeah.
there's some story in between it. But this was like all story and all ass whooping.
Yeah,
Like
pretty
this was
much.
their way of going back to that PS2 era God of War while keeping it in the realm of theirs. And
Mm-hmm.
they just did it so well that I mean that was a 3 hour, 4 hour DLC at most just on the first playthrough.
Mm.
And it
Yeah.
was that fucking good. Like the game came out last year, but the DLC I can't
Listen,
I had to put it over Zelda. It was so good.
that is a statement, and I respect the fuck out of it. That is a huge bombshell, actually, because I did not expect that at all. But just knowing how been talking about it, that shit actually is deserving of a high spot on this list. Number one, I'm not mad at. Like, I wouldn't put it at number one, but it's that good. Like, it really is that introspective and contemplative and like purposeful to where, again, I wouldn't take anything away from Hades. Like, I wouldn't, take it down at all because it's just a different style, it's a different vibe, and it's on a different scale. But God of War felt personal as fuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, Hades had a lot of like really great moments and told an incredible story in the field. I wouldn't change a fucking thing about Hades. I bought a system
not a
because of
damn
Hades.
thing.
But God of War, like, it was so earned because of so many games. And I mean, if you want to look at any of the series as having been like the culmination of everything since God of War 1, then Ragnarok or Valhalla is absolutely that like experience. It took everything that Kratos has learned and pulled it together in a way that makes this guy's story feel complete. I'm not gonna lie. Um, and that's without like delving into too much of what happens there. But it completes Ragnarok in a way I didn't think I needed Ragnarok completed.
That's the wild shit because I was looking at Ragnarok at the end like, okay, whatever we get from the next one is just, we're moving on from this.
Right. Facts.
But
I think everyone was. Most of
to
us.
like looking at it now, this was the smartest way to go about it because there's nothing if you stop at Ragnarok and go into the next
Mm-hmm.
game, there's really nothing for Kratos to do
Yeah, except
because
like
it's
start
basically
another
just a
fight.
reboot. Yeah, it's just a repeat of Ragnarok. But
Mm-hmm.
getting to that point where you get to the end of Valhalla and where he is, the next game is way more natural because now you're looking at it from the lens of this is where his mindset is now.
Right,
So how,
right,
how does he go forward?
right. And again, it's hard not to spoil things like this because,
Trying so hard not to spoil it. I want to talk
but
about this shit so bad.
yeah, we might have to do like a big ass spoiler cast where we put like, I don't know if
This
we can do,
Spider-Man.
yeah, like I don't know if we can do everything. We're going to just have to put it all in the name or the description or whatever. Just know that you're getting spoiled for some shit if you listen to this. But yeah, man, that is actually extremely fitting. I'm gonna just go ahead and throw my number one out there. I had the predictable one. I'll
Yeah.
be the one that held it down all year long. I ain't waver not once. Game ain't even come out yet. I knew what the fuck was going down. But but listen, with that being said, a lot of things really argued and wrestled Tears of the Kingdom into and out of that spot. Like, this year was the only year where anything could have ever come close to touching a sequel to the game that already gave me that moment that you were talking about with Ocarina of Time. Like, Breath of the Wild was that for me. And that's just because, to me, Breath of the Wild feels like Ocarina of Time. I talk about all the time how Majora's Mask was my Ocarina of Time. Even though
Right.
I played Zelda 1, I played Links to the Past. I played Ocarina of Time at my cousin's house, but the one I got for Christmas, you know what I mean? The one that I sat there and like cut the world out and played the most was Majora's Mask. To me, Breath of the Wild feels like Ocarina of Time, and more than just the fact that it got a direct sequel. It's the fact that going back to Ocarina of Time, it feels like there isn't as much stuff to do compared to Majora's Mask. It feels like when they put out
Right.
Majora's Mask, they took the same systems and the same characters and like built a playground out of them, you know, like and gave you a bunch of shit to do and people to talk to and stories to progress. That is exactly how I feel about Tears of the Kingdom. And the same way that like Majora's Mask was more my flavor, I'm gonna be coming back to Tears of the Kingdom for the rest of my fucking life just to experience this again, just to go through and like try to 100% everything about this game all over again. And I mean, I was doing it with Breath of the Wild already, and now I'm just like, man, what was I even doing in that damn game? You know what I mean? Like, I don't even
Yeah,
remember.
it almost made it feel empty.
Yeah, it was
It's
just
like,
crazy
damn,
to say.
how did I fill out 100 hours?
Man, and I wrestled with not wanting to say that about Ocarina of Time, and that's a game that came out like you said in 2001, 98 rather. Ocarina of Time is an old ass game, and I don't want to insult it by calling it empty, or because there's a lot to do. There's a world to explore there, but it's not as fleshed out. Same with Breath of the Wild. Like that game's not by any stretch of the imagination empty. That was a common narrative when that drink came out among people that didn't like the new style of Zelda, that it
Yeah,
was too empty. I vehemently disagree. I think that that game is full of stuff to do. First, beyond 150, what was it? I don't know how many shrines it was in that. If it was also 152 or whatever.
something
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, but you know, even beyond that, there was a ton of stuff to do, a ton to see, a world to like that they built. That game was a masterpiece. This game was a masterpiece as well, with just more paint. Like, you know what I mean? It's crazy that they did this. So it's got to be my number one, 100%.
Yeah, no, that's obviously, you know,
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
If it wasn't God of War,
yeah,
it was that. Yeah,
but
God of
I
War came in at
appreciate
the buzzer and absolutely just kicked me in the fucking chin.
100%, and I'm glad that we had different choices. Like that makes. I was thinking this whole time, like, man, how do we spice this shit up and not just sit here and talk about Zelda? Like, why would we do another Zelda episode? So
And
I'm
that's what it
really
would have,
glad.
yeah, that's basically what it would have turned into. But like, 'cause
It,
obviously we knew going into even when Valhalla came out that we were doing this episode like
right,
this.
right.
I was going into this going, Zelda's my number one. And then I got
Yep.
done with Valhalla. And I mean, when I was done, I was like, no, this is it. This is it.
Listen, and listen, if I can say anything, the way that we talked about that shit, it was very clear that this game was like the game for you at this moment. Like this joint had a major impact. So
Uh,
hey man, hell of a
insanity.
year. Hell of a year.
Um,
I'll be honest real quick. Baldur's Gate almost made me waver. Like
yeah, wouldn't be mad at it.
yeah, these are two 10 out of 10 games. It's just that Zelda is magic. Like that's all I can say about it. But yeah.
So speaking of God of War, there is a rumor, recent, like within the last hour, 30 minutes or
Mm.
so. Um, there is a remastered God of War trilogy that could be coming out within the next year or two.
Okay. Listen,
So we could be getting the first three games remastered for PS5.
I'm not mad at it. I so that's interesting. So if it's a remaster, like a collection type of vibe, is it are we kind of going along
I'm
those?
assuming that that's what it is. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no way they can remaster that and sell them like separately. It's gotta come together.
Nah, I'm just thinking like, you know, we're not talking remake, we're talking remaster.
No,
Like
we're talking. That's it. Looks like that's the rumors. They're saying remaster, but
okay,
there's a
okay.
debate as to what the scope of the remaster is going to be.
Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, like, that feels like more of a Blue Point thing than a Sony Santa Monica thing. Like
Yeah.
graphical, just complete overhaul. Like, just make this game feel incredibly new and modern. But it's the same game, you know. Hmm. Intriguing, intriguing. Because I'm much more a fan of the new style of God of War, but I think you need to keep if you got to pick a lane, you know.
Well, see, I don't think this is them necessarily getting outside of the lane. Honestly,
Oh no, not at all.
I could
Yeah.
see them releasing it in 2024 to piggyback off of Valhalla because I think this is the
Mm-hmm.
time to release it after everything that
Absolutely.
happened in Valhalla. Now you're giving everybody context. Because
100%. And
I'll play
that's,
dog.
yeah.
I will play all three of them.
And then,
2018, Ragnarok and Valhalla, all
yes.
straight through, and I'll
Hell
be
yeah.
sitting here with a hole in my fucking chest because it's all gonna hit.
And that's what they're trying to do. They're like trying to give you that Last of Us Part One, Last of Us Part Two experience, so you can just seamlessly
Dog.
go through and they all feel like the same. So that's what I mean. Like I think that making it a remake of the or a remaster of the old games doesn't. I mean, you got to pick a lane with your remaster. Like you
Oh yeah,
can't
you
try
can't.
to. You can't
No.
make the old games like the new games. You got to make the old games again. Like you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
bring that because that's a different feel. It's a different
But I think
flow.
they're smart enough to understand that that's the only way to do it. Because
Yeah.
honestly, that gameplay fits where Kratos is in his journey. It's just aggressive as fuck. Like
Yeah.
it's aggressive, it's violent as all hell. That's where he is. And then you get to
Yep.
2018 and it's slower and it's more, you got to think about shit more.
Mhm.
So leave that shit alone, slap a fresh coat of paint on it, and give me all three in one shot, put it right in my arms.
Facts. I'm with it. I'm all the way here for it. Okay, I'm not mad at that at all. And I listen. I'm one of those people that's not like complaining about this new like remaster remake world that we live in because games have been having really really great ideas for a long time, but technology has not been where it's at right now for that long. So
Oh hell yeah.
keep bringing that shit. Keep bringing those old ideas into this new modern era because they deserve it. They really do.
So
Um.
I've got three of our traditional ridiculous awards
Okay.
for our
Okay.
movies. Um
So before you get into them, I want to mention the rest of my top 10 real quick because I'm this is just
oh yeah, that's right.
scenario
You got
that's
the
saying
rest of your shit.
yeah, 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 yeah. And then I'm gonna let you do the rest of your movies, and that's how we're gonna wrap it up. So for my top 10, so just to recap, it was Sea of Stars at 5, Armor Core 6 at 4, Spider-Man 2 at 3, Baldur's Gate 3 at 2, and Zelda at 1.
Great job navigating the numbers.
Yeah, that was a lot. But I had 5 games that really, really, really came close, and it's hard to even order these. I don't even want to give these a particular order. I just want to kind of give them their little flowers real quick. Lies of P, which I don't think made enough lists as far as like that top game of the year list. Like
Did it make any?
I mean, like officially speaking, I don't think it was just too stacked. This year was crazy. And that game, a lot of people dismissed it because and nobody's really saying it, but I feel like the idea is that it's a little derivative because it's such a Bloodborne like.
Souls clone. Yeah.
Yeah, and not even
Yeah.
Souls generally, just like this Souls game. Like it's this specific fucking game. Like you can point here and make a direct line to Bloodborne, and they're not wrong. Like that shit is a Bloodborne like.
It's shit damn near the fucking logo.
It's almost Bloodborne 2, bro. Like, yeah, like, but I mean, at the same time, we ain't got a Bloodborne since Bloodborne, and this one did it
Like,
fucking great.
and that's the thing. Like, if you wanted to give us Bloodborne 2, you should have gave us Bloodborne 2. So
Listen,
somebody else
and
did it.
they still
You
can.
know?
They still can. Bloodborne
Yep.
2 wouldn't even feel, quite like this because this has a lot of has a little Sekiro in there. And it's got a little this and a little that, but it's purely Bloodborne, but it does have little sensibilities of other things. It's a unique game and it's aesthetic. It's a unique game in some of its gameplay mechanics. I talked about it before, but the fact that they encourage you when you run out of potions, you attack motherfuckers to refill your last potion. And like the more aggressive you are, you fill it up faster, and you get one more swig every time, but you can only fill up one more, and then when you drink it, you got to be aggressive again, and then you can fill it up and heal again. It encourages you to get in there. Like if you're in a fucked up state, it leads to a lot of interesting things, and that's just surface level of what I really fuck with about Lies of Peace. So shout out to that game. I got Final Fantasy 16, which no slice to that game because Sea of Stars made it on there. That was like, I'm talking about right before I sent you the link to join this Zoom call to make this podcast. I was flipping them around back and forth, right before. Final Fantasy 16 had some of the highest highs of the year, and this is a year, man. Like Final Fantasy 16 has moments and boss battles and summons and combat that I'm going to remember forever. Like those moments really, really stand out. Some of the lows can get a little bit, like repetitive. Do a lot of the side quests are generally go here, fight monster, get thing, come back. You know what I mean? It's nothing too crazy. And that can get a little repetitive. You know what you kind of expecting. But the things that they do with the world, like the way that you go somewhere, fight a monster, come back, and you learn something about like the slaves in this world, or like something very personal about this person's journey. It fleshes out the world in a crazy way. I never expected to play a Final Fantasy Game of Thrones, and that's what I got. So really, really fire game overall. Dead Space, I want to throw out Dead Space as well because I feel like Resident Evil 4
That's a
got
good
a
one.
lot of the RE4 kind of took a lot of that like remake of a survival horror game buzz this year, but Dead Space deserved to get some flowers as well. But I still, outside of Hi-Fi Rush, which again honorable mention, shout out to Hi-Fi Rush, Dead Space had the best sound design out of any game I played this year. I turned off the lights and fucking played that game at like fucking 10 p.m., 11 p.m., 1 o'clock in the morning, and
Shit in your pants.
was scared. Like I was actually shook. Like I'm not gonna hold you. I was like, this is tense as hell. And it's not that like, you think something's gonna pop up behind you. It's that in the game, something's gonna pop up behind you. Like it will. And you gotta listen. And they'll scurry something in the vents and have you be like, okay, we showed you where it's coming from with that little sound. I'm like, oh, okay, thanks for the warning, but it really
And it still
works.
get your ass.
I swear to God, it's crazy. But man, by the end, I'm over here like I'm ready for these motherfuckers. Like I'm out here, actually out here. So really, really, really fire game. I never got into the series before this like that, so I'm glad to finally get a chance to. My fourth, well, my ninth on the list, I guess, since we're going backwards, is Metroid Prime Remastered. Yeah, I feel
Yes.
like it shouldn't be a whole lot that I need to say because Metroid Prime is already Metroid Prime. For some people, it might not hit because a lot of people real strict about their shooters, and that feel can throw you off. I get that, 100% get that. Metroid Prime is almost it's just a first person shooter Metroidvania. Like, it's more Metroidvania than first person than shooter, so
Yeah.
I do actually understand
And
that.
shit,
But
it's a Metroid game.
yeah, I mean, what the fuck do you expect? Like, but it's top notch, man. Like just having it come out again in 2023 out of nowhere and remind everybody how fucking good it is and that it still works. Shout
Absent
out
of
to
the
the
control scheme on the OG game, if you play it
Mhm.
on GameCube, it's still fucking beautiful.
Yeah, it really is. Like something about that aesthetic, like it's not the most detailed polygons. I was trying to get to like polygonally or something. I don't know what the fuck I was trying to get out there,
I
but
see where you're going.
yeah, it's not the most
You definitely
detailed.
crashed the car on that.
Man, listen, I was going up a fucking, that little mountain road that like swerves like this. That's the road I chose to fucking hit at 80. But fucking yeah, we definitely don't have like the most textured graphics in those games, even in the remaster. But it looks great regardless because you don't need it. It has a style that just works. So big shout out to Metroid Prime. I'm glad I got to talk about the game this year. Hopefully, I get to talk about it again next year.
Yeah. Let's
Um,
get Echoes and Corruption out there.
please,
And
anything.
chill out with the Spider Guardian and Echoes. Like, just chill out. Just bring it down just a little bit, man.
Yeah, let's
Bring it down just a little bit.
let's figure that out. But the final one that I want to talk about, Starfield. Starfield is an interesting game, man. That is an interesting ass game, bro. It feels like a super polished game from last gen, but it's
That
super
is
polished.
perfect.
Yeah, it's like it feels like I talk about Final Fantasy VII's OG graphics and how they feel like a different evolution of pixelated graphics. Like, oh, if we went a different route with 3D and we tried to make the pixels 3D, like polygonal, then this is how it might have worked. Like, like the little blockiness. It looks like a fucking SNES Final Fantasy, just 3D. This is
Yeah.
like a different evolution of like where AAA games could have gone. Like if we just kind of kept building on what we were doing and making it bigger and bigger instead of changing up things. Like they didn't change up a lot, but they made what they do so much bigger and so interesting that it deserves to be at least on the top 10. I might not have it in my top 5, I'm not gonna lie. But that game really grasped me for a while, and I enjoyed the fuck out of my time with it.
Yeah, that's definitely a solid 10. Speaking of Final Fantasy 7, it's interesting that we got there. Did you see
Hmm.
the tweet where they said that Final Fantasy 7, the OG graphics, Cloud is basically Super Saiyan 2
Yes,
Gohan? Now
I
I have to
can't
replay the OG game because I can't get that out of my head. It's
fucking
gonna make it so much better.
it fucks me up because of how much he's clearly Super Saiyan 2 going.
Oh,
Like color wise,
color
hair wise,
scheme, all of it, dog.
he has the
Yeah,
same color shoes on, bro. Like this is
thank you.
crazy. It's crazy. Oh,
That's. I don't care if that's not what it is. That's what it is.
it is. I mean, like the only thing that's different is that Cloud's got like the suspender looking shit on his sprite. But I mean,
Yeah,
man, I
that's it.
cannot believe it really blows my mind. I never even thought about it. They got the same spikes, bro. That shit's wild.
So I'm telling you right now, I'm gonna dig up a copy of the OG game and fire that
Man,
shit up and say I'm playing as Gohan.
listen, I have that game on every system known to man. Like it's on my phone right now. That shit might be on my Apple Watch. I don't know, but I feel you.
Run run that shit on the pregnancy test like Doom.
Straight up a TI-83 and shit.
Dog, you remember them TI-83 games like Phoenix and all that shit?
Hell yeah. Yep. I
Bro,
remember
we had
people
them shits downloaded. Niggas was passing the cord around to get it.
crazy
God,
time. Like we had to
and them
be
games was legit.
yeah, like people were making little games like out of that shit. It's crazy how
I can't tell you
I
how
don't
many math classes I ignored playing Phoenix.
feel that. I 100% feel that. Those are expensive ass calculators. I'm glad we got some out of them. We made
Man.
something happen there. Like
Because
that's
other
just
than that, we wasn't using it for like you have to have a TI-83 graphing calculator. We ain't do one bit of graphing nothing on them calculators.
nope,
We
nope.
was doing regular ass addition and subtraction.
I used to do weird fucking like stuff I didn't understand on them just to see what happened. Like that's what I got out of my TI-83. That in
I was
games. So
animating shit. I had a flip book on my joint. I was animating shit. I
thanks.
did I did the Dave Chappelle on the toilet thing on there. Where he flew off the toilet. I did that one on there.
That's actually quite impressive. That's quite
I
impressive.
did I did one with a stick figure running across a rooftop, and then he jumps off, and then he just slams into a wall.
I wish I would give a lot to have this TI-83 just to see these like masterpieces today. Because
I was looking for it after I moved out of my last place. I thought I might still
mm,
have it, but I can't find it.
damn, well, that'll be lost. Somebody will find that one day and be like, "This is art. This is what the humans
Yeah,
used to consider art," and they'll see this
yeah,
stick man.
yeah.
Fucking smash.
Caveman drawing.
Yeah, exactly. That's amazing. All
Um,
right, man. So we can wrap the episode up with these Moonies. You said you got
yeah,
three.
I got three.
Okay, okay.
Um, Number one, the CM Punk Award, which is awarded to the
Mm,
game who made a fire comeback after a ridiculous controversy.
okay, I'm not mad at that.
Cyberpunk 2077. Um, just an absolutely incredible, like I said, incredible comeback.
Yeah,
Not on
I'm
the
not
level
mad.
of No Man's Sky, but
Close.
still, it's close, but it's still an insane comeback because this is No Man's Sky was the type of game that you could, for lack of a better term, get away
Hmm.
with not
Yeah,
following through because it looked like you could expand upon it.
yeah,
Cyberpunk 2077 was this is an action RPG. This is what it is. You fucked it
yeah.
up. There's no fixing this.
Yep,
And that's what it
yep.
really felt like. Like, nah, y'all just fucked this up.
Yeah.
And they said, nah, we can make this work. You know,
Hmm.
we good. And they did. They dropped, they fixed it over time. They dropped the patches, and then they came through with that 2.0 update, and it blew everything out the water. And then Phantom Liberty is like the next week. And
Hmm.
just fucking incredible. That game is everything it was supposed to be. We're in an era now where this could happen in gaming. Like we got to let go of some of that. Like people always say, well, DLC, that's the stuff that was already should have been on the game when you dropped it. It's just not how it works anymore. This
No,
isn't
it's
one of
not.
those things where you could say, well, just because it's, not tradition anymore doesn't make it right. Like it's fine. It's
Right.
fine if this changes.
Right.
And I'm perfectly fine with somebody going, hey, we fucked up. Let's fix it.
Yeah.
Because I can't be mad at the motherfucker moving like that. If I was, I'd be looking at Howie Roseman like he crazy. Drafted Jalen Rager. You know what he did 3 years later? He's like, nah, this ain't working. Let's go get AJ.
Yep. Yep.
Look, you made a mistake in the first round. You didn't take Justin Jefferson. Fix your damn mistake. And that's what he
Facts.
did. Same thing here.
Facts.
You fucked the game up. Fix your damn mistake. That's what they did. I'm cool with it. The game's fucking incredible.
Man, I still haven't got a chance to jump back in just because of the other 10 games I just named, but I fucking need to get into that game. Like I have, the OG. I don't have the Phantom Liberty expansion just yet. I have the game itself though on my PC. So I cannot wait to actually get a chance to jump into that bitch.
I think it's on sale for like 25
Okay.
right now.
Nice. And
Um
yes, I did just lose video also, so we just gonna keep it rolling. Fuck it, who
yeah,
cares?
no, yeah, so that's all you kind of passed out over there.
Yep, it's all
Um
good.
all right, my second award. This
Hmm.
is the y'all got too much money to be acting like this award. And this goes to studios and publishers participating in mass layoffs. Because y'all making too much money to be fucking acting like this. Stop
100%.
firing people for no damn reason. Because y'all got greedy.
Man, that's a good
Fucking
one.
people's lives up.
That's an excellent one. That's one that needs to be mentioned at least one more time for the end of this year. Stop fucking people's lives up. This is and speaking of that, like so this ties into the DLC thing. I did want to say this. DLC needs to exist because games take too long to make. And one other thing we need to realize is that this shit is not sustainable because games are too expensive. We
Yeah.
we have shot for the moon with this industry. It's like visual effects studios. I don't know if y'all realize how many movies y'all love that have shut down studios. Like they can't sustain this. You like people not making a living
Weta.
off this. Yeah, like
Lord of the Rings damn near killed Weta.
bro, that shit is wild. Like, bro, Sonic remaking Sonic fucked that whole studio up. Like this, it's really crazy out here. So we can't just keep throwing people, like using people, wringing them dry, and tossing them to the side to make products because these games exist now, and that's what's up. Half the time they don't even get the proper credit they deserve on them. So
No,
hundred
that's
percent.
the other thing, man. Put people's names in the credits. That's not expensive to do. That's not
That's
you're not rendering frames.
that is the literal bare minimum of what could be expected of you when
Bottom
somebody
layer, basic shit.
like somebody helped you make this thing, put their name in the credits. Are you serious? I'd be mad when motherfuckers don't credit people on Twitter for some art that
Dog,
they made. Like,
dog.
what are we
Repost
doing?
the people's shit. Who did this? Motherfucker,
Yeah,
they name in the goddamn watermark.
facts, 100%. So like, stop trying to, yeah, 100%. Get the industry the fuck together, please.
Yeah, please fix this shit. All right, my last award, the
Mhm.
Bitter X Award. This goes to David Jaffe for the idiotic comments he made about the new God of War.
Thank you
Just
for bringing this up as well.
Jesus, still
Hey
playing.
yo, hey yo,
Oh,
let's
I
let's
don't want
let's
Kratos to grow.
let's
Then you
start
shouldn't
the
have let
year.
somebody else take the damn game.
Listen, first off, as much as like I said, I'm much more of a fan of the new God of War games, and it's specifically because Kratos is a person now. Like
Oh,
everything, the old games were cool as fuck. Don't get me wrong; they you can't take nothing away from the coolness factor of them, but they were not deep. They were not interesting. They had it was more about the story, like the overall story than the characters. They're now about the characters. These are character studies that take place in these fucking wild ass settings. You motherfuckers are so small, man. Like, and I'm sorry to say that about somebody who makes great, who has a history of making great characters and great products or whatever. But like, that's such a small ass mentality to think that you can't expand. Kratos out here still killing gods and doing the same shit he was doing in the old games, but he has a son now and he feels stuff. Like, fuck off.
the whole point is like Kratos' journey from the OG games to the end of Valhalla is almost like kind of what it is to be like a man.
Yeah.
And it was like there was a interview I saw that just popped up recently. Fonte and Big Pooh were talking one of the barbershop interviews. Fonte
Mhm.
was talking about like in your 20s you're full of piss and vinegar. Like I'm ready to go at
Yeah.
all times. In your
Facts.
30s you still kind of are, but you kind of leaning back a little bit. And by the time you get to your 40s, you're like, what the fuck am I doing?
Right.
And that's pretty much all the entire God of War story was this young motherfucker, mad and aggressive. And then he gets to a point where he has a son and he's trying to teach his son to be better than him, which
Exactly.
is what, if, as a man, if you're a father, that's what you do. You teach your
Yep.
son to be better than you are. So for Jaffe to come out and go, that's not what this character is. No, it's not that. It's not what the character you made is.
Right.
But there's still
Right.
room for the character to grow because you don't hold this character anymore. There's an interesting story to have here if somebody's willing to tell it, and somebody was willing to tell it, and they told it really, really well. But to get out here and act like the character can't grow. He's got to cut heads off and fuck up Helios, and then go in a room with three random women with big titties and play a fucking quick time game, and that's what the game's got to be for the next 30, 40 years. Man, fuck out of here.
It would be done. We would be done with it. Like
we wouldn't have 2018. There's a reason 2018 exists, because you can't do what he was doing with that game now, not from a content standpoint, but because it would be boring.
Right.
And that's not to say that the games are bad, because I love those games. I really love those games, but that's an indie game at this point.
You know what I mean? Like it's leaning on things that don't make a substantial game in 2023. Yeah. You know, so I'm good. I'm good off that. Like again, respect.
But congratulations on your award.
Listen, you know what I mean? Like I ain't mad. And honestly, I can't really take anything away from the person that originally made Kratos, that had this idea. It's a dope idea, like I said. Like, but let's be better in 2024. Like let's think a little bit bigger. Let's allow people to grow a little bit more. Like, let's stop with the weak, the soft, off of things that you just don't take the time to understand. This dude they made him into a different character. Like, they expanded the character. This is called growth.
The irony is that the character growing the way that it did has renewed interest in the original trilogy.
Literally.
Because everybody wants to see, what the fuck was he so afraid of? Because that's what it was. He was afraid of himself. So what the fuck was he so afraid of? Go back and play the old games, especially if they're remastering it now. Go back and play the old games and see what it's about. There you go. You probably get some residuals off that since you was the one that created it. Shut the fuck up and let it happen.
100%. But hey, you don't want to live in the annals of history. You want to be awesome. So hey, whatever you want. Like, let's end that here. Let's end that here. 2024. Let's fucking be better. Like let's make that the theme of the year. Just every step of the way, let's be a little bit more than what we thought we could be. Like, let's stop limiting people and ourselves. Let's be better this year.
Growth.
Absolutely. And I think that is an excellent place to go ahead and wrap the episode up. Listen, let us know what your game of the year was for 2023, how you feel about our list, and what you're looking forward to this next year, man. Like, there's so much coming out. It's another year where I feel like my choice is pretty locked in, but we're going to see what happens. We're going to see what happens, because
we've got a month to Final Fantasy VII as of this episode dropping.
Listen. My choice is pretty much locked in for this year, but we're going to see what happens. Hey, look, Valhalla might drop some more DLC. Who knows? But until then, man, I'm Kendall. This is Tony, and make sure you keep gaming. Take care.